Hello, hello. It is Thursday already, and I can't keep track of time anymore.
Nope.
Thursday really kind of feels like it snuck up this week.
Yeah.
I think I'm on the 7-week countdown till winter break.
We're streaming right now, by the way.
And it is so damn hot here still. I think it was in the 80s today. Not fun.
Nope.
No,
Like hundreds hot?
no, about like in the 80s. It's still really warm though.
Are we... streaming?
Yep. I believe
Ready
so.
in one quick moment. There we go. Hey, Dr. Carroll's in. How goes it, sir?
Zeroth? 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 Is that how you pronounce it? Zeroth?
I don't know. I'm not even sure what that is. Ross, you have context for us on that? Us uneducated people, I'm not really sure if that's something we're supposed to know.
Maybe Azeroth?
Immediately preceding what is regarded as first.
I'm going to have to write that down.
What?
Is it Zeroth?
Oh, I see
I
it
think
now.
so.
That
Okay.
is...
That sounded so elitist at first.
Oh, wow. I was mispronouncing that.
I was like thinking some fantasy land, like Azeroth.
Zero.
Is that where
First,
Azeroth
second,
came from?
third.
Before first. Do you pronounce it Zeroth? Zeroth? Or Zeroth?
Oh my gosh.
I think it's Zeroth. It's supposed to be zero, so Zeroth. I would imagine.
Message retracted?
Yep.
Rude.
He typed CM. I don't know if it's like, come on, man, or something like that.
Making me explain myself.
I know your entire profession is explaining yourself. Then we ask you to do that as a member in the chat. That is a great start.
I'm trying to train the muscles in my head to do the rock thing. Stop it. I can't do that. I can't do it without looking angry.
If I do it, I'm going to give myself a stroke.
Is laughing okay for you now?
Yeah. Oh, that's actually a great question. Yes, I can finally laugh.
Okay. Have you pooped?
Several times. Thank you for asking.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to follow up on
All-
last week's conversation.
All this. Yes. I'm glad that that's what you follow up on from last week's episode. But yes, everything is well working on that front now.
Okay.
Or on that back now, I guess.
I only ask because I'm potty training my youngest, which is going great, and so poop is a regular topic of conversation in our house at the time.
Yeah, when you have kids, and even when they get to be teenagers, poop is still a regular topic of conversation, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with junior high kids, along with other conversations now that we could have dad talks about later.
It's just one of those things where it's like you want her to be happy about what she just did and confident that she's doing it right, and so the utter celebration and party we have to throw every time she poops in the puppy.
We did a little bit of that too. My wife would light a candle and sing a song.
Light a candle.
No, but think about like the practicalness of that. We lighted a scented candle because it was needed.
It's funny. It's funny.
Yeah, so this is obviously like the dad pillar of conversation for the podcast or the
Should we save this for the
parent pillar.
podcast or just leave this as pre-stuff.
Well, I'm already recording anyway.
What a
so
pre-show those
What a
people are
pre-show.
getting.
Maybe we should actually start separating part of the pre-show and putting for patrons only. For patrons only.
Okay, so continue to talk about it. My daughter is also at that phase where her language and speaking skills are exploding, and every time we meet anybody, she wants to tell them about everything. And of course, the main topic of conversation lately has been pooping in the potty and how she gets ice cream when she poops in the potty. And so everywhere we go, every person she meets, I poop in the potty and then I get ice cream because I pooped in the potty. Just the different reactions gauged by people who all of a sudden are having a poop conversation with the 3-year-old is entertaining to watch sometimes because I'm used to it. I'm almost desensitized.
Is it chocolate swirl ice cream?
No, it's Rocky
blue and
Road.
green. Yeah.
Moose tracks.
Yeah, moose tracks, exactly. And today we're going to learn about puns. I know you're not going to get it till you're older, but it'll be funny to talk about now. Yeah.
I think I should reward myself with ice cream when I poop in the potty.
Dairy Queen, here I come.
You survived, apparently, and you're here to tell the tale, so it must have gone good.
Yep.
Welcome to the Making Geeks Podcast. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I guess I'll go ahead and do our formal type intro and we'll kind of keep rolling, I guess. Get set?
Yep.
What's up, Internet? You're listening to the Making Geeks Podcast, the podcast for makers, families, and geeks. Greetings, everyone.
What's up?
Hey, how's it going? I feel like obviously I'm in a better mood this week now that it's been a little bit more than 7 days since my surgery. And I can now laugh without doubling over in pain. Last Saturday, I was at a family dinner. We have I'm part of a group, I guess is the best way to put it, called the French Society. People of French descent have a membership club type group here in Southern California. It's been around for a very long time.
Wait, the Friend Society?
French
Society.
Sorry if I misspoke.
Okay.
French Society. It was established a long time ago here, probably over 100 years ago, in LA. And we have a formal dinner every year for our chapter. And so I got to see, family I don't get to see very often. Got to see my parents who came down from Vegas. And my dad, knowing that I just had surgery, makes the motion to hit me in the stomach. And I back off. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? He knew, and he was messing with me because that's my dad. That's the way we are. And he was laughing so hard, and I start laughing, and I'm in pain because I'm still not healed from the surgery, and he got a kick out of that. So that was a big part of my week. It was kind of fun. So what have you guys been up to?
So is Jolicoeur French?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Is
that how it's properly pronounced then?
No, it is not, because I don't like saying it the way you're supposed to say it.
Jolicoeur?
Jolicoeur. Yeah. It's technically the last name is French Canadian because that's when it became a last name. It's actually a nickname that was given to people. But when, that line of the family immigrated to Canada, they changed it and made it their actual last name.
So you're French Canadian.
Yep.
Wow. The things you learn on this podcast.
I'm half French Canadian and half a bunch of other things.
You think you know a
Okay.
guy.
Yep.
You think you know a guy.
Mm.
And then you find out you've been saying his name wrong this whole time.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to talk about ancestry and family origin another time because I'll talk about a time I was at a family reunion and had a pretty interesting realization of something in my ancestry that I did not think was the case. Anyways. So what have you guys been up to?
Well, I have been dabbling a little bit on the CNC here and there. Did some relief carving of nothing too complicated, but just still trying to keep that muscle memory in check. I watched I guess this is sort of geeking out, but it's something that I kind of did. I'll just talk about it now. I watched the Dune movie. After I a little I basically knew nothing about I knew nothing about it before.
So you haven't read the books?
Before I went in there. I had not read the books. I had started seeing the film when I was younger, but I got bored and stopped. I never touched it again. I think there was a video game based on it. Wasn't there an RTS based on it? It was like an early RTS.
I think there was.
That might be the only real exposure I had to it, and I really didn't care for the game at the time. I just knew Spice was involved, and that's pretty much all I knew. And so I went into it, and I thought it was all right. I wanted to really like it, but I felt like I was missing a lot of references. I could tell there were things going on that they didn't really explain very well, and so I didn't really like some things they explained a lot, and it was a lot. And I'm like, okay,
like
I'm
the
getting
politics.
bored. Yeah, like the family, like lines or whatever, the houses. I'm like, oh, this is kind of boring. Let me keep going, and it was okay. I didn't like it as much as I wanted to like it, but as I'm reading forum posts afterwards, people were discussing things about the series that I thought were really cool, but they never even touched on them in the movie. And I'm like, if this was in the movie, I would have totally liked it more, like about how technology. I don't want to spoil it if people want to see it, but I guess this is not a spoiler if it's not in the movie,
70
right?
years old.
Yeah,
and
that's true. That's fair.
Is like 40 years old, so
Okay.
I don't know how much
That's
spoiling you're going to be doing.
Well, for me, had a person never seen the movie or reading the book, the movie, anything you had told me would have been a spoiler technically because I had no knowledge going into it. But I knew they didn't explain. I don't even know where to start. Like it's like a topic for a whole nother show, I think. But basically, I was wondering why there's no computers and things like that, and some explanation of why they have certain technologies the way they do. They didn't go over that at all in the movie.
They don't talk about that?
No.
Oh, man.
And like
No,
that
not
part,
really.
I was learning that after the fact. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's cool. Why didn't I know about this? And then some stuff about navigators and whatnot. They kind of brushed over that lightly, but they didn't explain what was happening either. Like some dude looked really weird in the eyes. His eyes went white, and then they weren't white. I thought he was getting like mind controlled by something, and then they didn't explain it. I'm like, okay, I don't know what happened there. And just like a lot of the things that happened that they sort of didn't really give any context to, and they expected them to be kind of like nods for the people that already knew about them to pick up on. But from a novice perspective, I'm like, I don't understand. And so I would like.
So did they explain like the voice and Spice and like all the?
I mean, but the thing is that the movie's incomplete. They're doing it in 2 parts.
That also pissed me off.
Yeah, which is a sneaky little friggin' thing that they didn't announce to anybody.
No, that pissed me off.
And Wesley, if you don't mind, I'm going to interrupt just for a second.
No, please.
Here. So I have an interesting history with Dune. I've never read the book. I'd like to, but I just never gotten around to it. But growing up, my dad and my uncle had a VHS tape of the 1984 Dune movie, and they would fight over the tape. There's only one copy of it, and one would take it and they'd watch it, and then the other one would take it and watch it. They wore out the damn tape, which is weird because my dad's not a real heavy sci-fi guy, and that film is pretty heavy sci-fi. The book came out in 1965, so a lot of the ideas and stuff, predate even like Star Wars.
Right.
And the film, there was a TV series at a point in time which I never watched. So a lot of these ideas seem kind of antiquated and weird to people, but it's also going off of a context that is almost 60 years old. I forgot what I was going to say now.
Something about Dune.
No.
Something about your parents.
Yeah, I didn't forget that part. But the movie is almost a retelling, or not retelling. It's almost a copy of the one that came out in 1984, which there was still a lot of information missing from as well. But the fact that the whole second part of the movie is missing, that kind of helps to bring things to a close and explain things further is not even there.
Well, because they didn't know if they can make. Have they announced whether or not they're going to make a part 2?
They have
got
now
green
announced,
lit.
yes. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
But the thing
that's
is,
exciting.
I guess it is if you're looking forward to it and then you like the film, but it wasn't made known in any of the marketing material.
No. Zero.
I said HBO Max, day one, and it's going to be in the theater. It didn't say this is part 1 of 2. That would have changed a lot of people's perception of it.
Did you watch it too, Sean?
I saw the movie, yeah. I really, really liked it. But I might be a little bit more forgiving of it, simply because of my nostalgia for the original that I really liked. But it's also part of that nostalgia that made me not like that this was incomplete, because there's some stuff that I was really looking forward to seeing. And now I'm going to have to wait 3 years because they didn't film it all at once. They have to get the entire cast and everything back together, build the sets again, and finish the movie.
That kind of bugged me with all the people that are giving it like super high reviews and whatnot. They're like, anytime anybody brings up they didn't explain anything or there was no real character development that I could tell, they're like, oh, just wait for the second one. I'm like, no. This was marketed as a standalone movie. You can't just like explain away the fact that they're missing all these normal elements, including an ending, in this quote unquote movie, and then say, oh, it's okay. They're just going to explain it in the next one that at that point had not even been greenlit. So there's nothing to say that there would even be a sequel, right? What if it never existed? What if they said no or whatever? Is this still going to be an awesome movie because it's only half of a movie? No, it's not. Like the closest thing I can equate it to is like Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, because that's like a long thing that's been broken up. But that had been explained ahead of time that this was going to be a 3-part movie series, so people knew that going in. And 2, they did a lot better job of explaining all these things to get even like the common person viewing it to have some sort of like lore and like world building and explain things so they're not confused and distracted before the next person says something, because I'm still caught up on thinking about what just happened in the previous scene, trying to understand it, and they're already telling me all this other stuff that I'm missing. And so it just kind of really bugged me. And
that's got to be one of the biggest gambles ever in film, because you have a very small window of getting people to see this film and not having them express a bad opinion of it, because if they express a bad opinion of it, then people aren't going to go see the film in the theaters anyways, and they're not going to watch it on HBO Max. Those numbers are basically done. And then you're also going to have an incomplete project as well. It's pretty ballsy.
Like I said, I'm probably going to go back and watch it now that I know more about, like I watched videos explaining the things I was confused about, and I probably enjoy it more the second time. But as a sci-fi person, I wanted to like it more than I did. I just felt really lost through like half of it. And then I didn't understand why they were doing the things they were doing. That, again, they're probably going to explain in the second one, but that doesn't help my viewing of the first one.
Right.
But the graphics and stuff are cool.
Is it in part because of just the world that we're in right now and the fact that they had a limited budget with a limited window and they could only do so much in so much time, and so they put this together to see if it could make enough to make a part 2? Because, I mean, if you made all of Dune into a movie, it'd be like 5 hours long.
There's no...
This is already going to be 5 hours.
There's no way that they would have allowed them to waste that amount of money on half of a movie if they didn't know they were going to make a second one. I kind of think that's BS, honestly, now that I think about it.
I kind of want to say that, too. They're not playing it that way, but something feels sketchy.
They're not going to give them that amount of money just to make half a movie. And like... You know what I mean? It's not like they're like, here's a free half of a movie. They got to convince them that it's worth making. And they're not going to convince somebody they're only going to make half a movie. No one's going to ever pay for that.
Yeah.
They might have done it just to rile up the Dune fans to make sure they all go see it, to make sure that there's going to be enough money out there.
I remember when I was in high school, the AP English students had to read Dune for class. And I remember them talking about it. And I found it fascinating. It just... it's on that long list of books that I say that I'm always going to get to and still haven't. I mean, so I still haven't even read The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings. I mean, that should even be higher on the list. But maybe someday. And I don't know.
So that's what I've been up to. That's a long sequence, huh?
Donovan, how about you?
So we had a garage sale last weekend, which went okay. The problem is, like, we had a neighborhood garage sale, and so a bunch of houses in the neighborhood were all doing a garage sale at the same time, which brought in a lot of people in this neighborhood. The problem is I live in the very back, very corner of the neighborhood, down a dead-end street in a cul-de-sac. And so unless you're completely lost or unless it's intentional, not a lot of people come back here. which 99.9% of the time is great, especially when you have kids. Like, I can let them play out front, and 99.9% of the time, like, not have to worry about like traffic or cars or like anything else. But when you're trying to have a garage sale, not a lot of people end up showing up. But we had enough that, you know, the kids were able to sell stuff and they had fun. And I tried selling.
That's where marketing comes in. You have to have signs like saying good stuff in the back.
I know, and we like there was signs everywhere with like arrows and things like that. Not that we put up specifically, but there were other people that had stuff going on. But it just wasn't enough. Which, I mean, we knew going into it was going to be like that. But I had some Halloween signs that I made, the little door signs and whatnot, that I make every season for myself or for my parents or whatnot. And I was trying to sell those, and it gave me I think I talked about this last week, gave me the idea to do Christmas signs as like a batch project. Because last week when we were talking about it, Sean, you were saying one of the things that you think I should do and focus on is like batch work, like on my laser and CNC and stuff like that. Because I was talking about the awards that I had been commissioned to make, and then more got ordered, and then more and more went on. And you said that maybe I should focus on that. And so what I'm doing is I'm taking a project that I made 2 years ago as part of my Geekmas series. It's the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer with the text from Game of Thrones that says Christmas is coming. So it's like a Game of Thrones-ified reindeer. So instead of the wolf, it's a reindeer version that kind of looks like the wolf from Game of Thrones, and it says Christmas is coming. And so I designed the files to cut those out in the CNC, and yesterday and the day before I started batching them out, and I'm making about 15 right now, and gonna try and sell them on Marketplace, on Instagram, on wherever I can, find people that want to. If Game of Thrones is still popular enough that I could find enough people that want a Game of Thrones style reindeer. No. Well, I'm glad I'm doing all this work now. So we'll see. I've been doing that, working on that, and then like we talked about in the pre-show, I hired a content manager for my channel, because I've been doing this YouTube thing a while. We'll say a while now, and I have definitely hit a rough patch in my content, and so left to my own devices, I don't think I'm going to be able to grow like I want to, or how I need to be able to make this a financially liable institution. And so I hired a content manager to help me figure out what to make, how to make my videos. And so my content is going to be probably changing quite drastically from now on, because I'm kind of letting go of control of everything that I'm doing and giving the reins to somebody else to see if we can't make this work. So that's going to be scary and exciting at the same time. What about you, Sean? Yeah.
Well, I think that we should just kind of ride what you were talking about, because that goes directly into our topic for tonight that we said we were going to possibly go into, right?
Yeah.
So tonight we're talking business. We're all, in we have this conversation or a similar conversation every so often, because things change over time, and we have to change for things personally with our lives and things that work for us, but also changing because the industry is changing, and competition, and I put quotes around competition, is changing simply because of, when you go to a YouTube page, if we're going to talk, specifically about YouTube, at least for the moment, you're kind of competing for those eyeballs and the attention for the different thumbnails on the screen. So I think having this conversation every so often still makes sense. And, it sounds like you're making a pretty big pivot there, Donovan. So kind of excited to see what happens with that.
Yeah. And honestly, like this I think it could at least tie into the conversation you wanted to have a couple of weeks ago about wanting things in our space to be hard, so that the ease of access.
Yeah, we could go with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like the ease of it, that like you were talking about competition, because we were specifically talking about the Glowforge and how you wanted things like laser cutting and all that kind of stuff to be hard, so that not the point of entry, what
Barrier
word
of
am I
entry
looking-
is higher.
barrier of entry, so that the barrier of
Yeah.
entry isn't so low that there's just constant competition all the time and it becoming a race to the bottom. And so kind of like, I think that kind of plays into it, because honestly, like, that is part of the competition, is the fact that all of these tools and whatnot are here and around and available and somewhat affordable, depending on, who you ask. And so there's a lot more people in this space doing the things that, that we do that weren't there before.
Yeah, I mean, here's a good example, and I think it's really interesting how these things and how fast these things are changing, even more so now. About a year, let's say a year ago, maybe even a little bit longer before I even got my first laser cutter. Every time I went to the store with my wife, we'd go around, look around, I'd pick up things and say, "Hey, look, this is a laser cut. Hey, look, this is laser cut." But the items that are produced by laser cutters in stores and people's familiarity with them are so just synonymous now, and just the knowledge is just there. It doesn't seem as big or special anymore. That doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, less, but that means that pool has gotten really large, and the access to it and the products being produced have in a lot of ways, I think, have lost their value, or at least the value has gone down, just because there's so much choice out there. I think it's like kind of a supply and demand thing.
Because because you think the familiarity of them like reduce their value or their
I do. So I think part of it is like let's say a customer's perception of value. They'll see something and know it's laser cut now, know how easy it is to load up the file and cut it, and I think that knowledge and that expectation changes a little bit.
In terms of how much they think it's worth or should cost.
I think that can be part of it, especially if you go into like the wild world that's Etsy, and you see like so many different versions of the same thing.
Gosh, yeah.
But the other thing, and what I was talking about with how quickly things change, and I was talking to my wife about this and a couple of people that we know, is, have you guys seen the tufting guns? Keith, the rugs that Keith Deason's been making?
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, if anybody hasn't seen them, check his stuff out. I think they're phenomenal. I love the subject matter that he's doing. I think he's doing a great job with them.
Well, explain what they are, like if somebody doesn't know what it.
It's a weird thing, because I didn't even know this thing existed before I saw Keith doing it. It looks like this weird medieval torture device, but you hold it up like you would almost like a gun or a rifle or some sort of firearm, and it is thrusting in thread into a base for a carpet, and it appears to go pretty quickly. You could load it up with different color yarn or whatever that stuff is called. I'm gonna call it yarn, but it's probably something specific for rugs and carpets. And he's making his own custom rugs, like a small throw rug, but he's doing it themed with different characters and stuff.
That makes it easier to match the drapes.
Yeah.
What was that?
I said it's easier to make carpet that matches the drapes now with that.
I can't even think of an appropriate response, but I love it.
But yeah, if you haven't seen Keith Deason's ones, what he's doing is he's taking the old, horrifically looking melted character popsicles that you've probably seen memes of every now and then, like SpongeBob or Mickey or the Ninja Turtle or Sonic or whatnot, and making full-fledged rugs out of them, and they are fantastic.
It is, but here's the other reason why I brought it up. Our friend Ashley from Chip Builds had gotten one of those, and she started making rugs. And I'd asked her, you saw what Keith was doing, right? And she goes, what? He's doing this? She didn't even know. And I swear that the market is exploding for that one thing right now. And I think that everybody wants to be unique. Everybody wants their kind of slice of the pie. And I think things are moving even quicker now. And people are finding ways to justify the cost of these things in order to pursue their passion to make a living with making. That in and of itself, I don't think is a very low barrier of entry, because I know that there's a lot of skill that's not automated at all. There's probably a lot of learning involved. I would probably be guaranteed to hurt myself with that thing at some point. Luckily enough, I'm not looking at that as a way of making, but I definitely have an appreciation for it. So that's kind of some of the stuff that I was mentioning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but one of the things you said that you're doing now is creating a store to help with the whole business of making, and you specifically.
I've had a storefront for years. I've never sold anything from it. But it was also not very. I've sold T-shirts, but that's not necessarily my storefront. I consider that like a little bit different. But I have had a storefront that I've completely owned and operated on Key Builders for a while, but never sold anything from it. In a lot of ways, I don't feel like I knew how to, but because I moved to what I think is an easier platform, and I'm making it a priority. And my wife and I are kind of working together on this. So I think I have a little bit of an added benefit there. I think it's going to be a little bit, hopefully, more worthwhile. Let's say.
Mm-hmm. How are you going to draw traffic to your store? I'm curious.
Well, I'm still working on that. I do not have an answer for you, but I mean that's everybody's thing, right?
Yeah.
And traffic is everything, whether it's for, Google AdSense or trying to figure out SEO. And I think that some of the tools that Squarespace has built in for it is going to help a little bit more. But I think ultimately, at least for me right now, and the exposure that I have, word of mouth is going to end up being the biggest marketing tool. Mm-hmm. And figure a lot of the work that I get usually comes through somebody I know that needs something, or everything that my wife is doing on the side that's kind of mixed with the Geek Builder stuff and our business and the stuff that we produce. We just, a couple of days ago, we just did a 500 button order. So wow. Buttons are still going strong, and, we've probably done 20,000, almost 30,000 buttons at this point, I think.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Because me as Joe Schmo, whatever, I would not have guessed that buttons were even still a thing.
But it's an easy marketing tool. It's an easy thing that people pass out, and it's think about going to Maker Faire. How many buttons did we pick up? They're an easy thing that, and people still like the tangible nature of it. I mean, stickers are nice, but stickers are kind of a one and done type thing. A button is something that you can take and transfer to different objects, and it can be different, but yeah, it depends.
Yeah, so like with my situation specifically, I unfortunately am in the situation where all of my eggs are in one basket at the moment, and that basket is YouTube, and the eggs would be views. And that's one of the reasons why I hired a content manager, is the fact that it's like I'm not getting enough views to be able to make this sustainable. Because it seems like everything else that I had either planned for or hoped for or wanted to do was based on that initial, everything going into that initial basket. And so, Sean, like, I'm kind of doing like what you're doing is what I did is I compiled every SVG, every STL file, everything that I've done since the beginning, and am going to create a store. It's been slow going because I didn't realize how much stuff that I've done.
When you were talking about it earlier, let me make a quick recommendation for you though. Mm-hmm. Be careful how much inventory you're creating for yourself. Even 15 of a single sign could be a lot, and when you do that for that many different products, that's stuff that you all have to try to sell through and then store.
But that's my only physical product.
Well,
that's the only one thing that I'm doing is that. Everything else is digital. But right. I totally understand.
But if and when you expand the physical things that you're going to sell, just be careful of inventory, because that's all things you have to store. Mm-hmm. And if you're laser cutting most of it, and if it doesn't have that long of a cut time, it might be a little bit easier to maybe keep 2 or 3 on hand, but then also keep the rest on demand for when needed.
Yeah, I used to do that with the arcade coin banks that I would design and try and sell. And I batch printed just a bajillion of those things, and couldn't sell them. I couldn't even give them away. Yeah. I couldn't find people to, and so I finally was able to go to a family reunion, and one of the things is they had like a fundraiser to create the funds for the next family reunion, And so they had like silent auctions and drawings and whatnot. And so I just took all of my arcade cabinets and put them out as stuff. And so that's how I was finally able to get rid of them. But at that point, I'm like, I'm not doing this again. I'll be print on demand if I need to be. But the signs, the reason why I wanted to bash the signs is that they're big enough, and I would be able to charge enough that if I could find people to buy them, like I think, at least in my mind, I think it would be worth it. But only time will tell with that, obviously.
Yeah. Years ago, I made a lot of. Remember when the kind of the rustic looking bottle openers were popular? You know, basically a bottle opener on a piece of wood.
With the magnet?
My wife convinced me to make like 10 of those, or 10 or 15 of those. I made a bunch of them. I don't know if we even sold one. I ended up giving a lot of them away for gifts, and then pulling off the bottle openers, holding onto those, and then just using it as scrap wood for other projects.
Was that the one you used like Kylo Ren or something to like do the force to grab them, or did you do something like that? Or was themed?
That was somebody else. I never did that.
Oh, okay.
That was somebody else that had that idea. Yeah, somebody was far more creative on that than I was. I'm like, okay, let's make it look like a piece of barnwood with a bottle opener on it. Yeah.
No. This actually ties into everything. That's exactly a good point, because in the beginning, just having a bottle opener on a piece of wood with a magnet was enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people wanted. But then people started doing like epoxy inlays, and then they started doing laser engraving, and then they started doing like sports teams or whatever. And the plank with the bottle opener and the magnet wasn't enough anymore, because things changed. Right. The market changed.
Throw some flexible LED lights in there,
Oh my gosh.
You're set.
I will say that, Wes, you have a really good ability of kind of being ahead of the curve on a lot of ideas that I've seen. Unfortunately, some of them haven't gotten finished, and I'm still waiting to see things. Like the eyes moving on the Cappy hat.
It's fair.
I'm still waiting for that.
It's quite fair. Yep.
Yeah.
Me too.
Wes is ahead of his time.
Whenever my twin, finishes up with those, that would be great.
Yeah, right.
My clone.
Yeah.
I still have not seen anyone else do a self-contained projector Nintendo Entertainment System.
I know. No one cares about it.
I completely disagree. I think it's a hidden gem. I think there's a marketing issue with that. Have you guys ever considered? And I've thought about this. I don't know why I'm kind of skittish to do it. I've thought about pulling down a video completely and trying to redo like the introduction of it and seeing if I get a different response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of did it once where I did a recut of like an old video, thinking, oh, it's still the same SEO in a lot of ways. It's a different thumbnail, but it's similar enough. And, the original was getting enough traction. I thought that it should appear like in a similar feed. It didn't work. I fouled that up somehow. And I don't know what the magic sauce was there, but I kind of missed the boat on that. I'm not sure what it was, but maybe I have to revisit that at some point.
I've thought about doing that with a lot of my videos, because I have 115 videos on my channel right now, I think.
Do you really? I didn't know you had that many.
Well, I mean, we
30
did
of them for that 1 month.
30 of them for that 1 month. So it was easy to up the numbers on that. But or maybe it's like 112, something like that. But like 98% of my views come from 5 videos. And so it's been very tempting to not like completely do a new project, to just go back and redo an old project and edit it in a different style to see if I can like re-upload it or whatever. Yeah, that has been very tempting.
Have you ever gone back and changed the end cards to point them to something more current or something more topical? Yeah.
Yeah, I had to do that with.
I figured with your latest Ninjago that didn't do as well, I figured you would have changed so all your good Ninjago videos point to that one or something, or maybe add.
Yeah, I also had to do that with all of like my old, because in the beginning, my first 30 videos all said, hi, I'm Donovan. This is Beardless Man, and today I'm, thing. So I had to go in and clip those out. It's very bad clipping because YouTube's video editor is not great. So it's like, hi, I'm Don, and today we're gonna, and so you could tell that there was a forced cut and a forced edit there, and I've had to go back and like manually change stuff that used to point to things that no longer exist, or like you were saying, try and at least drive traffic to other stuff, because I feel like what we do, we have very evergreen content. It isn't like topical or contextual to this time and only this time. So it's like people can go back, and if they like one video, they should, in theory, like watching this other video or whatnot, which is the whole point of end cards. But they haven't. I think and the last time I looked, it's like 1.2% click-through rate on end cards for me.
Yeah.
Which
also, the problem is that if you don't have good retention on the videos, they'll never make it to the end to click on anything, right?
Yeah.
I forget, what are the links called that appear on the top of the video while the video is
cards?
Yeah, I think it's cards, or whatever the term they use for it now, because I think it's changed over time. I would love to see like the statistics on how many people actually click those. I mean, I have them in every one of.
Yeah, it's in your analytics.
No. I mean a collective
you mean globally?
Statistic. Yeah, globally, not just like individually, because not a whole lot of people click on stuff that link to other things online. It just as a general group. Sure. I'm just curious. I know that it's probably very rare that I do.
Yeah, I don't think I do either.
Because I feel it interrupts me watching it, so I don't want to click on it.
Yeah. I know that the intent is to kind of keep everybody within the ecosystem at some point, and those would be kind of not congratulatory, but that's kind of the instance of it. Yeah.
So how do you guys diversify? Because like I said, like all of my eggs are in one basket right now, and that's
crypto. No.
Okay.
I think the diversification is YouTube. It is sponsors, even when you could get them. And I think it's selling a physical product at this point in time, and other merchandise like shirts and stuff, which I don't think they're that lucrative for most people, unless you have a really large channel and a huge fan base. It's it's probably pennies over time.
Because like one of the things that in trying to come up with like business plans and figuring out how to diversify is it seems to me at this point that everything is based on views. Like everything is based on views, because sponsors come because you get enough views. Like people clicking on links, like affiliate links, like even affiliate links. I've had an affiliate program from the beginning, but it's like I can't get people to click on video links unless I get enough views on the video. Like selling shirts, unless you get enough people like watching the video then clicking through to buy a shirt or like anything like that. It seems like everything is based on views, and that is hard for me, like not getting enough views to then branch out into these other things that I would consider diversifying my my income stream or whatever.
But the problem is that YouTube is the least dependable part of any of this.
So how do you guys like not depend on that so much? And because you both seem to be making it work okay. Like Sean, you have companies
I have a full-time job where I can afford to not make a whole lot of the making thing. But I mean, overall, it's I really do think it has to do with physical products and trying to sell things in your physical area, unless for some reason, and I honestly don't know how a lot of people do it. I think we've all seen instances where somebody says they're making $10,000 a month selling online. They're investing in a marketing strategy or SEO or buying their way to the top for results, or something. I think that they're spending money in an area that they're not being. You look like the end part of some of those movies where the aspect ratio changes from 69 to 4:3 or something.
Can you still see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
Donovan's video feed, for those who are listening in your car, his video like dropped out and he came back in, and it's like he's like squished like horizontally, so he looks like super tall and skinny.
Like cartoonish.
Yeah, he looks like a Simpsons character now.
I don't know what just happened. I'm sorry.
It's the AI behind Skype that made the decision for you. Which should make me skinnier. Yeah, so I have a feeling that in some of those instances where people are saying they're making that kind of money, I think they're investing in things and paying more money up front for visibility that they may not be forthcoming for. It's tough because you figure per view, you don't even make a penny per view on YouTube. And it's kind of a tough way to go. We've all been lucky enough to hit with a video that has a really, really high view count. I still don't even know how mine, and I don't have a lot, but the couple that I've had that have pretty high view counts, I don't even know how it happened. I didn't do anything special. The videos aren't even that great. It was pure luck in my instance. So I try to focus a little bit more on what is a little bit more dependable. I've been lucky enough for sponsors to be contacting me now, but even then I'm not getting paid by them. I'm getting some free product, which is fun in some instances, but it's not very profitable. You figure I sell one sign or I sell one cutting board or any of the other things I do on the side, my rate of profit is a lot greater than depending on a YouTube video. I'm doing YouTube still because it's, I'm still pulling income from it, but ultimately it's fun and I like it, and it's the only reason why I keep going forward with it. There's no way I would ever be able to depend on it as a dependable income to support anything, at least for me. I have to gravitate towards what I think I could depend on, which is the physical products. Mm-hmm. So craft fairs, my wife and I have done some business, like the equivalent of craft fairs, and did some things, but a lot of it really is word of mouth and somebody that says they need something, and we simply say, oh yeah, I can do that.
So how do you find those people that would say, I need something? Because
my wife is a people person and she talks to everyone. And we've done a lot of business with schools and surrounding districts and nonprofits. And it's really just finding a need and saying, I can do that. And the need is always there. It's kind of like knowing where to look. A lot of nonprofit organizations need things to promote the awareness or whatever it is. And we have the ability of making really marketable stuff. Mm-hmm. It's, Wes, you've done how many tumblers for your daughter's like swim stuff?
Right.
You've done quite a few, and that's, it was another organization, another group that you knew. And I think it's the start that a lot of us need sometimes. So, yeah. I know my brother-in-law too, who's in the chat right now, is, making, progress because of a similar strategy.
Oh yeah, he let me know today that not YouTube, Instagram has rolled out linking in stories for the general public now. So that's something that we can utilize to help market our own, not even our own content, but just like the website or the store or anything like that. As you can link now.
But now the floodgates are open.
Yeah. And again, it's based on views, because if not enough people are viewing your story, it's tough, and it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, obviously.
Wes, what you got going on? I know you're always working on a little something.
Well, yeah. I previously, in the last month, I helped a guy who was getting into like foam smithing, and he created a replica. He had an order to create a replica of a Super Bowl ring, but it's scaled up to be the size of a hat that a NFL fan would wear on their head. And so he was in the process of designing this, and he ran into a roadblock because he figured, hey, he's going to have to like hand cut all the lettering for this big thing. And there's like a lot of words and scores and phrases and stuff. And so I'm like, hey, you can use like a laser and kind of knock that out pretty easily. He's like, oh, you can't use a laser on this kind of foam. I'm like, oh yeah, really? Okay. So I grabbed a couple pieces of foam that I had up here on my shelf.
I like EVA.
Yeah, just EVA foam, and I like floor mat foam, or like even the skinnier stuff. I had it from various other little projects, and I just found the image that he was using as reference, and I cut like pretty much the whole one side of the ring that he was like creating within like 30 minutes of me posting. Oh, really? And I posted the picture and a video of me doing it. He's like, what?
That's such a Wes moment.
I know.
And that puts such a huge smile on my face, just knowing that, well, one, Wes, but two, knowing that we collectively have the ability to do that. And that's those are the kind of things I like out of all this.
Yeah. And so that ended up being, I ended up collaborating with him on that one project. And recently in the last week, the person picked up the big ring, I guess, ring hat, and he was going to a football game in Tampa, I think, or somewhere. Yeah, because it's for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is the football team. Is that actually in Tampa? I guess it is. I don't know. I don't know if
I thought they were hockey.
No, no.
I'm joking. I know football.
Okay, you could. I'm not 100% sure. I don't do sports ball.
Anybody among us three would know. You would probably know.
Well, so I assume they were football because it's a Super Bowl ring. I'm not that dumb. I'm only mostly dumb. So the guy wore it, and he actually got pictures on the Buccaneers like homepage of him wearing it. Like he's like, "What?" Like freaking out in the crowd or whatever, looking at the camera. And so the guy who contacted me, he's like started getting. I think he got like 30 interested people in like 2 or 3 days or something that wanted the same ring. Basically, maybe a couple of them were modified to be like customized, for their kind of like people wear like custom in NHL jerseys with like their last name on the back or some other like weird little quirk. And he's like, dude, we got to scale this thing up. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Cool, awesome. So he came up with like an arrangement for him and I, to kind of like split the labor and the money. I'm like, awesome, cool. Not on such a huge scale where it like sets off red flags, but obviously the football team posted a picture of the thing, so they're sort of endorsing it, kinda, as far from a trademark, copyright perspective, whatever. It's sort of a gray area.
Well, it's a one-off as opposed to going into production, though.
Yeah. And so I'm like, sweet, this is gonna be awesome. It's gonna make some, Christmas present money. This gonna be great. And so, this was a couple nights ago. The next morning, he messages me. He's like, so, I got some news. I'm like, yeah? What's up? He's like, yeah, I bought a laser cutter.
Barrier of entry.
I know. And I'm like, oh, yeah? Cool. I'm like, no, he said I bought a laser, or he said he was going to buy a laser cutter or something like that. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, why didn't you message me? Why didn't you ask me about it? You could, like, use my, like, Glowforge. Did you get a Glowforge? He's like, yeah, I got a Glowforge. I'm like, really? Where'd you get it? He's like, oh, I ordered it from Michael's. I'm like, dude, you could use my coupon code and save like hundreds of dollars, and gave some change in Geeksmithing's pocket too. And he's like, oh yeah, I didn't know. It was too late at that point. I don't know. So yeah, it's like a perfect example.
We just talked about that too.
I know. I was so happy that he's it's another maker doing cool stuff. It's awesome, right?
Yeah.
But he could at least said something, right? It was kind of sly. And I'm like, okay, dude. So when he comes knocking on my Facebook Messenger door, I'm like, hey, what about those files that you used to create this awesome stuff? I'm gonna be like, I don't know, buddy. I must have lost them in a hard drive crash. I don't know what happened.
You should license it to him.
Or exactly. Or it'll be like a couple $100, or something. I'm not sure.
Wait, I can't create the design in Glowforge's software?
Right. Yeah. I don't know how much of a jerk I'm going to be for that, but I'm anticipating it.
Just tell him for unlimited prints, it'll be $40.
Yep.
For one print,
and with them selling the Glowforges and Michaels, that it was an example of doing what we were fearing might happen for people that have Glowforges and have referral codes. It took I think his wife found the link or something, like, because it was like he blamed it on his wife, like being the financial manager, like basically like cutting me out of the deal, which I understand from a financial perspective. That
Yeah,
makes
but you
perfect
also could have
sense.
saved them $200.
I know.
because-
I know. Whatever, dude. Whatever. It's cool. So yeah, I'm trying to look for other things. There's a couple other. I'm in some other Facebook groups. There's one for the camper that I own, which is a kind of unique camper. I have a feeling there's interest in making Christmas ornaments that are themed like the camper that I have. From the last couple years that I've been in there, people have made like vinyl cut stickers of this camper. It's like such a obscure, and you can't find like merchandise for it. It's really interesting, as you guys know and seen it. But there's like fanatics. Like I think that's the key here is like the NHL or the NFL thing is it's a bunch of people that are willing to spend extra money on this one thing. And same thing with this camper. There's a lot of people on here. I'm in a concentrated grouping of fans of this, and also with my Honda Element, I think I can make some stuff for that. So I think if I like lean into those communities I'm already part of and just like look at them from an entrepreneurial perspective, I think there's some stuff there. And definitely when I first got the K40 a couple years ago, I just did a couple little ornaments that I sold for like $20 a pop. They were just 1/8 inch cherry that I had, like some of them I painted and stuff. And I sold, I don't know, $700 worth of ornaments within like a month.
$20 a piece?
Yeah.
Holy crap! How are you finding people? Oh,
Facebook Marketplace.
Okay, so that's one of the differences, though, that I was talking about before, where you see the stuff that looks really commonplace, that looks like anybody could do it, that value goes down. But once you do something that is a little bit more custom and specified, especially these groups that Wes is talking about, that's where the value is.
Man, apparently.
Do you remember hearing Josh talking about, and he's talked about this on the show, so he shouldn't mind us talking about it publicly. Every year he does custom ornaments of people's dogs.
Yep.
And makes a killing.
Yep.
But it's custom. You can't go to the store and find that. So even if you have a piece of equipment that might be somewhat, available to people, there's still some skill in actually setting those files up and getting that working correctly.
I agree with you. That's where a lot of the barrier to entry is still really high. If it's not easily accessible, or they can't buy the design on Etsy or some other digital marketplace, they're not going to be able to make the thing. And that's where we have the skill set still.
Yeah, the three of us have like a really, really strong design background. We've all had art training as well. And that's such a huge benefit. Yeah. You see that there's still a lot of bad design out there. And when you see good design compared to bad design, I think it becomes pretty apparent. We've already sold a couple. I posted on one of my stories a while ago where I have a sign outside my door that says friends welcome, solicitors or not. And it's done the theme of Friends, the TV show, and it's done in the theme of the frame that they used to have on their door. We've sold like 3 or 4 of those already. We have cutting boards that are themed that way that are selling. A little bit different than the custom thing that like Wes you're talking about, because it's based on a popular franchise, but it's still stuff you can't readily go out and buy anywhere. Mm-hmm. So even though it's based on something that's licensed, and I probably shouldn't be doing a whole lot of it, doing a small limited run and making a couple $100, not a bad way to make some money for a month.
Jeez. Last year I did custom family name ornaments, where it's like kind of a design on the outside and then a big letter on the inside of their first family name, and then like a little bar that goes across the middle, and have the family name, all that kind of stuff. And I sold a few, not a lot, but I sold a few. But I posted it at the end of November, and every week I dropped the price until I finally found people willing to like buy them from me. $3 is how much I had to drop to till I finally found people interested enough to buy.
That doesn't sound
custom
right.
ornaments from me. $3 a piece.
Eesh.
It's like, and so when I hear like Wes say it's like, oh yeah, I sold ornaments for $20, I'm like, how? I don't.
For some reason, I don't think people value their name the same way. No, I'm being serious.
No,
think about how many different things that you could get your name on, and you could go to any store and have it engraved for a couple dollars. I don't think the value for that specifically is there. You know, and here's a question I want to ask you guys too, but at the same time, I'll kind of answer for myself. For everybody that knows that you make something, I've had several times where people will approach me and go, "Oh, you should make a bunch of those, or you should go into business making that thing." And I tell them no, and they get like, "Why? What? Don't you like money?" I'm like, "No, you don't understand. There are issues of scale and issues of effort going into that one main thing." And it's funny that people don't realize that. Like, so like for instance, the when my grandfather passed away, I did a laser cut custom coat of arms based on his last name, and I had a bunch of people saying, "Oh, you should do that for everybody. You should sell them." I'm like, no, that was really labor intensive, and I can't scale up production to produce a lot of them very fast. And what I would have to sell them for, I don't see them selling. You know, that tends to be kind of a problematic thing too when you're trying to create products like this, is just simply the issues of scale. And you know, I think we have the ability of producing a lot within reason, but it depends on how much post processing is needed for those different items as well. You know, I probably had 5 to 6 hours at least into the finishing of that. Well, first of all, redrawing it for laser cutting, finishing, making the frame, and all that stuff. You know, I'd have to sell those at $100 a piece. But the thing is, you can go online, you can buy them for 20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I face that almost daily, with people wanting me to make them Ninjago weapons. And every time somebody messages me or leaves a comment in my video, you know, asking me to make them like one or a set or whatever. I just had a mom of a son, like really nice letter. Like honestly, like very, like, I love what you do. Like my son adores these videos. It's his favorite thing, all this kind of stuff. Like, can you make me a set of the weapons? And every time that happens, I'm like, I show you in the video how to make it yourself. Like, just make it yourself. No, I don't want to make it myself. I'll just pay you to make it for me. And I'm like, you don't understand. I was like, it takes so much time to make this. I would have to charge you so much that you won't want to buy it. I'm sorry. Like, I would love to be able to, like, you know, do Ninjago weapons, because oh my gosh, that would be huge. But geez, it's just I like I said, I would have to charge so much.
Have you thought about a way of doing it to where you could manufacture more?
The only thing that I've come up with, I've tried this in Fusion 360, and I'm still taking the course. Bob, whatever, whoever you want to attribute the course to. I say Josh. Yes, Job. I'm still taking Job's course, and so I'm learning how to do it, but like figuring out how to take design a model for it and then do a two-sided CNC job. I think it would work that way. My CNC really isn't that big. It's a 16 by 16 bed, which is limiting on how big things can get. But if I could figure out how to do that, yeah, I could batch them out. But my skill in that department is way not where it needs to be able to do
the thing is, though, that with something like that, you get to a point really quickly. I think, and Wes, jump in if you don't think I'm on the right track here, is that CNCing or doing a custom CNC job on those things, you'll end up with probably a really nice product, and you could probably charge a premium for it. But in terms of scale, you'd be better off, you know, CNCing a blank and doing like a urethane casting or something, and just casting those, and then you can scale. And then of course
casting it out of what though?
Resin.
Urethane resin or urethane rubber or something like that. You know, remember in the I Like to Make Stuff video where they did the action props? They have that flexible stuff, because if you're giving it to a kid, it probably should be made out of solid wood anyways if you're going to fight with it. I mean, there's ways of scaling, and I think that, you know, when you have to look at making a larger number of something, you have to start looking at how you're manufacturing it and what you're making it out of. But there are possibilities if you were able to go forward with that. I just don't know how much you can make before you start, you know, raising the eyes of a Lego. I don't know.
Yeah.
Injection. Yeah, that is true too.
Your thumbnails themselves already look like they're officially sponsored by Lego.
Although, honestly, like, if I get to the point where I get a cease and desist letter for anything, I would probably feel a point of pride and like, oh, I've made it.
I'm big enough to be
finally-
noticed. Yeah.
I'm big enough
Wes
to be
already has
noticed.
that. Wes, do you have that letter framed or that email framed
Which one?
from Nintendo?
No, I never got a letter from them.
Oh, they just automatically started capturing some of the revenue from your video?
Oh.
From the
Are you-
from the Mario Kart room?
Yeah.
Are you talking
no.
about the email chain from Nintendo's internal servers that somebody sent him a screenshot of?
No. So originally, Nintendo had a
Claim?
No, they had a policy where if you had a video that contained Nintendo IP, either music or video footage, you had to sign up for a creator program where they would basically do a revenue share with you as a creator, and you would log in with your YouTube credentials or Google credentials, and you would flag either your entire channel if you did just solely Nintendo stuff, and you would get like 75% of the revenue that will be generated from the clicks, because they would take the other 25 as being owners of the IP, or it would be like 60% if you just did a video by video case basis. So I had to sign up for this thing, select that video, and so any revenue that came in from AdSense went to Nintendo, and then according to the deal, they gave me 65% of the revenue that came in, and they paid me through PayPal. They have since disbanded that policy and that program
I didn't know that wasn't
a couple years ago, but it was an official thing that they did. Yeah.
Now, was that because I don't even think I even paid attention? Is it because it used some of the music in the video?
It is.
Oh, for some reason, I've been misquoting this for years. Then for some reason, I thought it was them flagging the image of Mario or something initially. I guess it makes more sense to the music.
Yeah, it was the music. I believe there could have been some other manual things that they could have like flagged and saying I violated something if you did use just IP and not any video footage or music, just like you're saying. But for my specific case, it was because I used like Mario Kart music for some of the background music. But I didn't wait for them to flag it before I did that. I was already aware of this program.
You were proactive on
and
it.
I was proactive on it. Yeah, I mean, I only made like $300 or $400 off the video, as far as AdSense when it was all said and done with. But yeah, it was kind of interesting that they even had that at the time. But as far as other stuff, I've been thinking about creating a laser cut or maybe even Glowforge specific like tutorial website, where you list tutorials, like you just sit there and smack okay, let me back up a little bit. I've been getting into writing WordPress articles for Peter Brown for his website, and so in that sort of train of thought, I'm like, what other things could I write about? Well, I could do YouTube tutorials or Glowforge tutorials that are searchable through Google, and because I have searched for some myself, and I found websites that are pretty well done that the content within it I could definitely do and have my own spin on it, or just make a butt ton of them, and then in the header of the web page I would put like a referral code to get possible like Glowforge credits for stuff. So that's one thing I might do if any people are interested in joining me to make the library of content bigger for this tutorial page. Let me know, and we could work.
Do you
something
have
out.
to be a Glowforge owner?
In order for the revenue part, but I think if I could even do like a digital content store component of it. So like you're saying, like you could go on Etsy and buy like a zip file with SVG cut list or whatever, the actual cutouts of how to make a haunted house or a little dog house or a mailbox or whatever, right? Or your arcade cabinet, like they could buy the digital file, like you were saying, you're already sort of creating. Like I was thinking of making a equivalent of Thingiverse, like a repository for like laser cut stuff.
Specifically for Glowforge.
Yeah.
See,
Step
in my
one,
mind, that
like
seems
Glowforge.
super smart. Just with like we were talking about, Michael's offering them and them being more readily available, people buying them left and right.
They're going to want to know how to
apparently.
use them, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to want some kind of resource.
I know that the episode's already going a little bit long, but in terms of Glowforge, I'm kind of talking a little bit about what we talked about before with like barrier of entry. I don't know what their install base is for the machine, but I'm wondering where that market saturation point is. I'm just curious.
I don't know.
But, yeah.
Apparently, it's not big enough yet. That's why they went to Michael's to spread it even wider,
Yeah.
right? So.
And I'm wondering at what point they come out with another product. They have one product that does one thing. They don't have a rotary cutter. They don't have not a rotary cutter, but a rotary spin. What do you call it?
Yeah, just a rotary for doing
a
cylindrical
rotary.
objects.
Yeah. And they're going to fall behind a lot of other companies that are almost copycatting they're probably going to eventually start taking market share away. Just curiosity. But they have the top marketing, so they have that for a while still.
Yep.
So I think we're at that time, unless anybody else, you guys have anything else to add to our business strategies at this point in time.
I think we've beaten that horse a little bit.
Until things change again, and it's
until next week.
Fighting update.
Yeah, until next week.
I know that talking business is kind of a constant, and our listeners probably hear it quite a bit. But switching gears, what are you guys geeking out about? I'll go first. I am geeking out about the Lightyear trailer that came out from Pixar. Pixar is doing an origin story for Buzz Lightyear. And I'd seen some threads on it that, this is a movie that nobody was asking for, but everybody now wants to see. I was mesmerized by this thing. And I think that we're almost in the midst of another space race in a lot of ways between the different companies that are trying to dedicate more effort and funds to space travel. And I think it comes at a very interesting time, cultural time too. And I think it looks really cool. Yeah, I'm in.
Kind of on that, in my quest for looking for a job, Space Force is actually hiring. So I thought that was funny.
You can redesign their logo.
Yeah, it's probably the only thing I'm qualified to do at that company or that agency. Not even a company, it's an agency now, official agency. I'm geeking out about two things. One is a product. I watched a video where somebody used something that they called LED filament that I've never heard of before. It looked like LED wire, and I've used LED wire and LED strips and whatnot in the past. But they were talking about LED filament, and I looked it up, and I realized that for anybody that has or has seen Edison bulbs, it's the wire that is either curled or mounted inside Edison bulbs that are super popular right now. And so I had an Edison bulb, and I busted it open and found pulled out the filament wire and plugged it up to my EL wire pack. And this thing is amazing. For anybody in the video feed, like it is super flexible, which is something that EL wire and EL tape is not. It is moldable, it is bendable, and it is bright. And I am so excited about the possibilities of using something like this in a project. It would have to be small scale, obviously, and not large scale, because they don't come in very long of strips.
I wonder why that is, though. There has to be a reason why that's not the thing that's getting sold in stores and stuff. Is the flexible filament, is it warm to the touch when you turn it on? Is it hot?
No. And it's like I have EL tape, and EL tape can get pretty long, but the problem is it's all one continuous circuit, and so the longer it is, the dimmer it is. Now, I think one of the advantages of this being able to be as bright as they are, one is because it's so small. It's not like LED strips where the diodes are like, a thumb width apart or whatever. And so whenever you turn it on, there's like it looks like little individual dots. this, as well as the LED rope or whatever they call it, has the advantage of looking like a continuous light rather than like light, space, that kind of thing. But I don't know why it's not manufactured in, maybe there just hasn't been enough demand for it.
Are you sure that it's LED and not fiber optic?
No, it's LED. Like, it's specifically LED. Yeah. But I'm geeking out about that. The other thing that I'm geeking out about is, speaking of lore-heavy things, the second trailer for the Wheel of Time series came out, I think, this morning. And it looks amazing. But in watching it, it made me realize that it is going to be such a lore-heavy TV series because the books are just massive. And so there are a couple things that I noticed that they're going to do differently in the TV series than what they did in the book. So I am super excited to watch that when it finally comes out on a service that I actually have, which is Amazon Prime. So
let's see. Myself, I'm excited over two things that were released recently. The first one is a quick one. It's if you enjoy the Muppets, they recently released a new video on their official YouTube channel of them doing a cover of Mr. Blue Sky, the song, and it's awesome. So I'm surprised Donovan hasn't piped up because I would expect him
I did not see
like
that.
You should check it out. It's really good. And the other one is on Disney Plus. They recently released a new episode of Marvel Studios Assembled, which is the name of the show, where they do like behind the scenes of like the production of new Disney Plus things. And the most recent one is for What If, the series, and they go behind the scenes and show like the voice actors and like they talk to the animators and the head writers and what they were trying to do, and it's really good. And they talk about stuff that probably Donovan picked up on, but myself as a filmmaker novice, they start talking about like how they were like creating artificial sources of light and fake film cameras to emulate real film cameras that you would see in use for different like mood situations in the MCU. And so they're trying to like lean heavier into using more epic and theatrical like techniques for an animated show, which I thought was kind of cool, like with the staging and like the composition and stuff like that. So I thought that was neat. So highly recommend watching that. And I had a smile on my face the entire time, and it reminded me that I love that series.
Very cool. We gonna thank some people here? I think we have some people to.
Yeah, I think I can think of some, including our patrons over at patreon.com/Making Geeks. Thank you guys and gals so much for helping us keep the show in the air with your contributions. It means the world to us, especially the top patrons, Jordan, who is the #1 patron, Square Splinter, and Clinton from C3D Prop Shop. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
And we have a website, if you didn't know, makinggeeks.com. On that site, you can send any requests for the show, topic ideas. We're open to all those things. We also have a shop with some Making Geeks themed merchandise, and you can listen to all of our past episodes there on the homepage of the site. And I'm going to mention something additionally this week. If you use like a consistent podcast player that has some sort of review system for different podcasts, we would appreciate a review. That will also be a big help to the show.
And since we talked about like business and business strategies and business ideas, if you have ideas for us as a group, you can contact us through the website. If you have ideas for us individually, you can come find us individually as well. We have Instagrams, we all have websites that all are associated with our business names. So if you want to find Sean, you can find him at Geek Builders. If you want to talk to Wes, you can find him at Geeksmithing. If you want to give me some recommendations, you can find me at Once Upon a Workbench.
And we like to thank everybody hanging out with us in the live chat. It always makes for fun conversation and seeing the things that are put there during the show, and always makes it a little bit more enjoyable to record. So like we're not just recording into the ether here. And new episodes of the podcast come out every Saturday morning on your favorite podcast player of choice. So from all of us to all of you, have a great week.
See you later.
See you next time.